our $1 Million Year in Monaco, and we had such a great time. And she is going to do the last part of the class, which is permission to succeed. Okay, give it up for National Sales Director Roya Mattis.
You guys have been sitting for a long time. And so what I know for sure is that when we do that, we start to drift. And I don't want any drift in my class. Are you with me? So can we stand up for a moment? I'm going to talk to you a little bit about oxygenation, just really quick, off topic. But how many of y'all would like to know how to remember where your keys are, somebody's name? Get out of panic mode and into an action idea. Would anyone like to be able to do that instantaneously? Well, here's the truth about biology. When we start to panic, when we start to freak out, when we start to stress out, or when we start to sit for long periods of time and we forget our correct posture, we can begin to have what kind of posture? Well, show me what it looks like when you're stressed out, freaked out. Yes, right. And we compress what? The bottom part of our diaphragm, which has 70% of where the oxygen is accessed. Did you all know that? And most women in particular walk around like this. Hide the boobs, hide the boobs. We started to do it, especially if you did early development in middle school or whatever, and now you're eventually Quasimodo. And you have no oxygen. So first you want to start with proper posture. Next thing I'd like you to do is access deep into the diaphragm, because when you stop getting the oxygen, your body goes into survival mode. This is biology. It goes into survival mode. The survival mode, therefore, allows you to see, write, do all the basics, walk, but not access the higher level thinking. So you're going to access the higher level thinking with air. Sound crazy? So you're going to breathe deep into your diaphragm for me really quick, as deep as you can go. Deep as you can go, deep as you can go, and then let it out gently. Now, many of you all were getting your air from up here. It's try to breathe, stick your stomach out kind of so it doesn't look great. The way you never want it to look. Breathe down in here, get as deep as you can. Try it again. And then let it out. Now we're just going to do it one time for time's sake. I want you to breathe as deep as you possibly can to the count of 5. Then I'm going to have you hold it to 20. If you get lightheaded, I want you to affirm yourself that that's good, unless you're actually going to pass out. But what that tingling sensation is going to be saying to you is that your body is actually oxygenating itself, which will allow you to access higher level thinking. Got it? Mm-hmm. Then you're going to breathe out for 10. Are you ready? As deep as you can to the count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and hold it. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and like a straw, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, empty all the way, 4, 3, 2, 1. Got all that carbon monoxide, dioxide, some oxide out of your body. All right, this is why Mary Kay Ash was so brilliant with singing. When you sing, you breathe better, you breathe deeper, and you start to create energy. So we're going to create some energy as a finale before I start speaking. Are you ready? You guys ready to play full out? Who's going to play full out? You want to get everything? You got to play what?
Full out.
Are you ready to play full out?
Yes.
I didn't hear you.
Yes.
Okay, let's play full out. We're going to reach up into the sky, straight up, and you're going to snap your elbows to your side. We're going to do it 10 times. We're going to pause, and we're going to do it again. Are you ready? Yes. Okay, to your full, whatever your capacity is. And then you're going to breathe, so it's going to look like this. Okay? Usually do it through your nose, but we'd have to hand out a bunch of tissues. So are you ready? Here we go. And 2 more times. Here we go. Keep there. And in one more time for your diaphragm. And here we go again. Very good. Anytime you want oxygen, anytime you want energy, anytime you want to remember something, anytime you want more positivity, anytime you want to access an answer that you can't find, baby, that's how you can do it. Have a seat. Are you ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. I'm ready. Permission to succeed. Weren't your teachers phenomenal so far today? Yes. Phenomenal. What an honor to be in the room with Donna and Nancy. And now I get to help wrap up their brilliance with permission to succeed. Because there are those of us who can't see high success. We look upon others and think, I can't measure up. You buy in to all of life's limitations. Then, there are those of us who stumble into success. They wonder how they got there, and then they begin to sabotage the next level with self-doubt. There are others of us who are fearless and blind, like a bull in a china shop, crushing all in our path with our overbearing ways, our selfish behaviors, or ill-matching work habits. And then there are those who are clear, coachable, centered, who own their light and shine their light upon others so that their light may shine as well. They toss aside competing and comparing and resolve to collect amazing human beings in their circle. They are no longer threatened by other people's greatness. They are grateful because they know they can't be all things, nor should they. We all want the latter. Wouldn't you agree? So I'm going to tell you a few stories. I'm going to tell you first a story about a young woman. She was a new Mary Kay consultant. She was full of vigor and enthusiasm. And she was prepared to break records. She went to an event not really understanding this whole Mary Kay thing. And she got really excited. And she realized, oh my goodness, this is about enriching women's lives. And her national looked her in the eye and said, you're going to do big things. I want you to go on target for your car this month. She'd had one party under her belt, and she had 2.5 weeks left to go on target for her car. And she did it. And then she dug into the skincare class. She was not near her area family, so she found an adopted director who had tons of cortisales rings. And she mimicked everything she did. She carried the bags, she put a tape recorder in front of her, she listened, she went home, she wrote down by dictation, and she went and did it again. She repeated exactly the way her mentor was doing it, accent and everything. When Christmas time came, people weren't holding the parties closer to Christmas, but that didn't stop her. She had perfumes on her shelf that she didn't order. Her mentor ordered it for her. She didn't know what to do with it before, but she saw it as an opportunity instead of a holdback. And she learned to shift gears for the holidays. And guess what she did? She earned her car in 4 months. And then she was in DIQ. And she started freaking out. And she started thinking, how can I hold parties, meet the people, do the interviews, do their business plans, hold their debuts, everything while working the full-time job. And so she stopped doing what she had been doing. You see, her director was an absentee director, like one, you know, that you could never find when you needed her. Her director at the end of every month had a car accident. She had a lot of car accidents. That was always that director's excuse. So she started trying to hunt for people and shortcut. She would go up to cosmetic counters to recruit because, hey, they're making like 4%, and Mary Kay does 50%. So that sounded like a really good idea. But as she recruited, the people didn't really get what she was doing. And so she sat down with them, and she took a full notebook for the recruiting chats, and she read every word inside. She was going to be masterful at this recruiting notebook. She didn't really hear anything they had to say, but she got through that notebook. She resubmitted DIQ twice, and she finally finished flopping over the finish line with every minimum you could hit the third try. And another story of a girl. This girl was a first-year sales director. She dug into the system. She started holding parties vigorously. As a brand new sales director, she continued that on, and she went up the career path. And she helped women earn free cars. In fact, she helped 4 earn free cars in her first year, and she offsprung 3 sales directors. She was so excited. Her goal was to do $1 million that year. And she went to her very first director's meeting in the spring. And at that director's meeting, they did a lineup for production. And she had done $50,000 in team production. And so they started counting up 10,000, 11,000, 20,000, 30,000. And she kept going. And people weren't going. And she looked back. And she thought this was normal. It was her normal. But she found herself featured to be #1 amongst all these seasoned directors that she admired. And she asked herself, I don't understand how I did it when they didn't do it. And they started asking her, well, how did you do it? And she felt like she really didn't know. And so she thought this was an indication that she didn't deserve all that production. And so she fell into self-doubt. And she really didn't know how to reproduce it because she felt so insecure about what she didn't feel like she knew now. And so she produced 1/3 of what she had the month prior because she believed that was her deserved level now. And then the third and final story I'll share with you today, and permission to succeed, is this was of a girl who threw her heart over the line. She didn't have real systems in place. She hadn't built anything. She was working from a lot of just raw information. And so she just was willing to run. She didn't care what it took. She was just going to run hard. And she didn't know what it meant to work smart. She was taught work hard. And so she worked hard. And she began to believe that success meant sacrificing everything else. And she began to view her missed goal, which she did miss, as a defeat rather than a stepping stone. She viewed her missed goal as a defeat rather than a stepping stone. She became unwilling. She saw everybody else in their best light comparing to her worst. She compared their best to her worst. And then started making disempowering excuses as to why they were where they were, because they must be not unprioritized people. These people were doing so well because they were not lifestyle people she would ever want to mimic. All 3 of those stories are of one girl. Me. I too have been where you may be now, have been, or may be tempted to go in the future. So I have 4, because I can count to 4. Tips for you today that will help you bypass my mistakes to go further, faster, with a very interesting, fabulous full life. We want that?
Yes.
All right, let's cut this sucker short, shall we? Your journey short, fast, fabulous. Number 1, a clear vision of the pain. A clear vision of the pain of where you are that you don't want to be, or where you were that you never want to go again. You see, pain has no memory unless we give it memory. If we don't honor the pain, it will dissipate within us. Have you ever had pain in an event and it was really frustrating, and then you went home and, it's not that big of a deal? Anyone ever felt that way before? We must give pain a distinction. So when you feel pain, laser beam into it, lean into it, and think, I am never going to forget this moment. Smell it, look around it, touch something. I can still feel a moment, many different moments, but one particular moment when I changed the trajectory of my business, I can see the concrete wall. I can feel that concrete wall. I can see the Queen's chair billowing with smoke. I can see the blur of the people passing by me. I see my knees because I gave pain memory. When you remember it, you are less likely to repeat it. Number 2, clear vision of the result of what is going to happen next. Not way down the road. Yes, I know you're going to be a national, but what are you going to do next? Now, when you choose what it is next, the next big goal, and I know many of you already know it, your seminar goal, drive free, or directorship, whatever it might be, or better, if you're going to be a director, they better drive free. Amen, girls? Yeah. That doesn't go without the other. When you tie your end goal to your basic need, it will have more power. I'm going to give you an example. So if you're not familiar with the basic needs, freedom and choice, love and belonging, fun and pleasure, safety and security, power and achievement. I'm going to say it one more time. Freedom and choice, love and belonging, fun and pleasure, power and achievement. I think I missed something. Safety and security. Thank you. Safety and security. So, for example, mine may not be yours. And mine is not better than yours, and yours is not better than mine. It's what it is. So, basic need, I was introduced to this by National Sales Director Stacey James, and it has changed a lot of things for me and helped a lot of things make sense that I didn't know that I was tying my vision into a basic need when in fact I was. And some of us, we need to know that in order to really get a deep reason. So if you're searching for a deep reason, maybe you haven't thought about what your basic need is yet. So my basic need happens to be love and belonging. I love to create memories. I love to take people with me. I love to do things to make people feel belonged and loved. Okay? And so when I changed things, so in 2005, I was coming off of 2 backwards years. The pouting years, the pity party alone years. The years when I was making excuses of why I wasn't where I was and that really wasn't me. I was making better choices than these successful people over there were doing, those years. When I attached the pain, I attached a vision. And what I did was, I envisioned the Queen's chair. I'd never even thought about it before. But I sat at the end of seminar and I was so irritated, finally, with where I was. I mean, have you ever been so doggone irritated? Like when the directors walk in the director class and you're like, seriously, you got a shut door there, I don't even know what's going on in there? That pisses me off. Get mad about what used to make me mad? They used to have black tarps over where the directors could go shop. You couldn't even see past the black tarp. Ooh, don't give me a black tarp. I am going to be in there. I want you to feel that for yourself. I am going to be in there. Because you can't shut me out. You deserve to be in there. So I saw my knees on the edge of success. I'm at the concrete. I had been on the floor before. Back then, not too long ago, we had the arena, and the floor had all the diamonds and all the nationals and all the top directors in the company, and I happened to be sitting right along the railing, looking down upon the floor where I had sat my first year as a sales director. And my good friend, Anita Conley, now National Sales Director, made the trip that year. And she was so excited, and I was so excited for her. And she happened to cross right below my chair, and she waved up, "Hey, Roya!" Hey, Anita. I was pissed. I couldn't be down there, and I wanted to. And I wanted to make a difference to people. And so I remember her face. I remember the moment. I remember what it felt like to realize that the decisions that I had made were now me. And then the Queen's chair came out at the end of seminar night. And you know how they bring the, if you've ever been to seminar, most of you have been to seminar, they bring the empty Queen's chair out with the rose and the crown, and the smoke is billowing around it, asking, who's next? Or will it be you? And while the crowd dissipated, I stood at my seat, holding on to the iron rails, and I watched the Queen's chair, and I embedded it into my mind. And it wasn't because of the crown, or the chair, or the roses of the sash. For me, it was to bring along my family that next year. I had not had children yet, and I wanted my parents to come so that I could honor them for all the years of sacrifice, so I could surprise my mom with the diamond ring for all the years she had given up things for us. And so every morning and every night, I remembered, I thought about the pain, and I went through the whole experience. And then, as the vision became more and more clear, I added more details to how I was going to do it, and what I was going to say, and how they were going to feel, and what they were going to think after that. When you put people on a podium and honor them in front of 10,000 people, they will remember it. And of course, I finished all 3 courts that year. And it was my very first year doing the court of sharing, and to my surprise, and to already having lived it many times, I had already been there in my mind. We were the Queen. We did the trip for the first time that year, and on that stage, I handed my mom my court of sales ring. Now, my dad had a last-minute emergency and had to fly for a relative that was dying, so he couldn't be there, but he did get to watch the video. And Mom wore that ring every single day. You guys, she was so proud of my daughter. Then they put me on the cover of the Applause magazine, and it was all wrinkled up. She didn't know about sheet protectors. I brought her a sheet protector. And she bakes, and she had every baked good in it she'd ever baked. I'm like, Mom, give me the ring. Don't tell everybody, let me clean that. It looks really bad now. And so every year it became my tradition to then give her a brand new ring. Until one year, I chose a more modest ring. Mom, you're going to love this. She looked at it, she's like, that's small. That's the only quarter sales ring I now have. But you guys, isn't that wonderful? For a woman that wore such modest jewelry to her deserve level to be that high now. Big, baby. Bling, big. You deserve it, Mom. That's right. That's right. So it isn't about your car. It isn't about your suit. What does it mean to you? Power and achievement, safety and security, freedom and choice, love and belonging, safety and security, fun and pleasure. What is it for you? Number 3, the machine that runs your dream. The machine that runs your dream. Yep, systems. Break it down into 3 consistencies to start. A beauty code. Really easy. Make sure you wear it all the time. Thank you, Kristen Sharp, for inventing that simplicity, because it takes willpower to continue to do what we're doing. And when we can reserve it for the important things, like meeting the people, and take it away from the unimportant things, like what am I going to wear? I feel fat today. I feel skinny today. I feel like my shoes don't look right today. Whatever it is, and you just put a beauty coat on top of whatever you wore at work. You run into a grocery store, Target, wherever you might go, and somebody accidentally meets you when you might not remember to be intentional to meet them. It can access more business than you can imagine. The beauty code relieves you of what to wear. Booking time, specific time. That's what changed my business completely. When I gave myself the permission, I boiled it down to simple. I made sure that I had a specific time every single week, week in, week out, week in, week out. And yeah, I had gotten some real bad habits in those last 2 years. I mean, real bad habits. I mean, like I knew the TV shows 8 o'clock at night every single night. That's a real bad habit when you know them every single night. And so I had to play a game with myself, because who's going to motivate you when you're all alone? Because you might be depending on somebody, but that is so unfair, because in the darkness, when you're all alone, that's when those tiny, seemingly insignificant moments build up to your actual reality. So I would watch the clock. And the moment the clock hit 7, ding, like it was one of those, not digital, I had to get up, and I would literally have a tantrum. I would look just like this. And I would stomp myself to the office. And the game was I could not sit down until I dialed the phone number. Because you know how you can go in there? Oh, you can go in there real good. So I had to dial before I sat. So that means you prepare earlier in the day. The third thing that I made sure was in place was my leads. I made sure I had 100 to 200 leads at all times. Because then you're not feeling like you're bugging people for real. You can just not be concerned if they text you back or not. You've got a system in place. You're calling them a certain amount of times in a certain pattern, and you've got plenty to do it with. So I became willing to do what I was unwilling to do in the past. Oh, I had earned a Cadillac, never warm chatting anybody. I am not an extrovert. I'm actually a natural introvert. Can you believe it? No, so introvert. So really, I had not met anyone out and about in all that time. So I started to ask myself, who am I meant to bless today? Rather than, I need to get 5 numbers. For me, who am I meant to bless today? And so I became willing to hear the whisper and honor it. Because oh, she's sharp, whoa, and then you play that little 2-person game in your head. Talk to her. No, I don't want to talk to her. No, you're not going to forget it. Yes, I'm going to forget it. No, you're not. Just forget it. Yeah. Anybody ever had that other person?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, the pain of regret weighs much longer than the pain of a no. And so I would just be intentional. And then I made sure I always had 3 to 5 lead generation sources going on at all times. And I did 1 to 2 large ones every single month. And you guys, this is all it was. Pick whatever you want. Just make it the same. Every Sunday night and Monday night I booked from 7 to 9 on Sunday, 7:30 to 9 on Monday. And it became a new habit. I didn't let any other incoming calls come in. I didn't coach any bookings. I didn't do any career surveys. I didn't do anything else but intentional booking, because if I didn't do intentional booking, I wasn't going to have the rest of it. Even when my mama called, and she was used to calling me, because remember I wasn't doing anything for a long time, she would call me on Sunday nights. So it took her a while. So I'm like, Mom, when you call, we have to do it this way. You've got to call me 3 times in a row before I answer. Because the first time she forgot, the second time she's still trying to track me down, and the third time she dialed, be like, oh yeah, it's Sunday. So she would actually leave me a message, go, honey, I know it's Sunday, and you won't call me back till 9, but it's your mama calling. So how many of you have created blurry lines that are driving you crazy? Honor them first, and others will honor them too. So we would talk at 9. So it was 3.5 hours of intentional booking, totally changed the trajectory of my business. With that intentional lead generation, that's all I did different. I held 1 to 3 parties every single week, but they were week in, week out, week in, week out. It was the most peaceful year. We went from 350,000 to 650,000. We went from no courts to all 3 courts. 1 to 3 parties, week in, week out. Now I'm going to give you a leap, if you want a real leap, but first let me give you number 4. Powerful self-talk. Powerful self-talk. Totally necessary. When you go in from something that isn't working for you to something that is working for you, and you start to get afraid in the process, that's real. We have to honor our subconscious mind, because your subconscious mind actually drives all the reality of your life. However, your conscious mind is supposed to be in charge, but we just don't know how to dictate to it very well. So I'm going to give you a secret. So that year, remember I was watching TV before, so I happened to have been watching prior to that, flipping around, and it was 60 Minutes, and they were interviewing Matthew McConaughey. And I'm flipping, I'm like, oh, he's cute. Let me see what he has to say. So I listened to him, and he talked about the book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, and how it changed his life. And so I got that book. And it just so happened that the passage that I needed, the positive self-talk I needed, was inside in the inside cover for where I was at that time. But what I want to say to you is point to your chest. Point to your chest. When you're afraid, when you're insecure, when you're in self-doubt, the number 1 enemy is? That's the number 1 enemy. You cannot rely on your words at that time. You have got to pre-select the words for when it's going to happen, because it is going to happen, because it happens to every single one of us. So you choose the words. It might be a scripture. It might be a song. It might be an affirmation. It might be something you've created, but it is pre-designed. And every time I would get afraid, because I was afraid of being the almost made it girl. I thought my entire career I would almost make everything and never quite do it. So Tony Robbins calls it incantations, not affirmation, because an affirmation is, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, no emotion. It's with emotion. So I would go to the mirror, rear view mirror, compact mirror, bathroom mirror, doesn't matter where a mirror is, there's always going to be a mirror somewhere. Every time I would get afraid, before I went into action, it only has to take a minute or two, you guys. Before I went into action, I would go to a mirror, and I would go so close to the mirror where I couldn't judge my face, my nose, my hair. You know how women do. My eyebrows, oh, I need to pluck them. You start getting all distracted. So you get super close, and look into the pupil of your eye where your soul lives. And speak to who you be. Remind yourself of who you are. Get real clear, almost indignant about it, and tell it, and tell it, and tell it, and tell it until that feeling starts to change. You know that feeling. You know when you get all tensed up and you just can't handle it anymore. You're so scared, you don't want to do something, and then you go, and then that tingling starts to happen. When you said it enough times, it might take once or twice, it might take 50 times in a row, and then go into action. But if you keep working in disbelief, baby, it's not coming together. We have to honor the power of the subconscious mind. Be your own best friend by preparing for the enemy in you. I just noticed the time, so I'm going to tell you the leap later. I'll post it on Facebook. How about that? And so, Roya Mattis. You can easily follow me on there, okay? So I want to honor our time. So let me just end with this. It's not what happens to us. It's the meaning that we attach to what happens to us. When we ask better questions, we get better answers. So had I just asked myself, not why is this happening to me, but if everything is happening for me, if all of it, if I could just believe that maybe all the good, bad, and the ugly, the beautiful and the wonderful were all God as a gift to me. What could be the gift in this right now? His gift to me by putting me on my knees, my third attempt, my fear was failure by causing a failure situation in me was the greatest gift I've ever had, and I've had to use it my entire rest of my life. The fear of failure was ripped out of my body from something that others in a different meaning could have said, I'm not meant to go far, Mary Kay. But my meaning was, he must have a lot in store for me because he's making me super strong, baby. What meaning are you going to give? Whatever it is, make sure it benefits you. So, stand up. You don't need your notebook for this. You can find this online, what I'm about to give to you right now. I want you to envision your end victory. It's June 30th, 2017, or whatever your year-end goal. You're going to go ahead and close your eyes if you're able to while you're standing. I want you to see that victory as if it's already happened. The clock has struck whatever hour you decide, 5 p.m. Maybe it's June 29th. Maybe it's midnight on the 30th. Your victory is won. I'm going to credit Tony Robbins for this powerful affirmation. And now you're going to speak to yourself the truth. Repeat after me. Now I am the voice.
Now I am the voice.
I will lead, not follow.
I will lead, not follow.
I will believe, not doubt.
I will believe, not
I
doubt.
will create, not destroy.
I will create, not destroy.
I am a force for good.
I am a force for good.
I am a leader.
I am a leader.
Defy the odds.
Defy the odds.
Set a new standard.
Set a new standard.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Now I am the voice.
Now I am the
I
voice.
will lead, not follow.
I will lead, not
I will
follow.
believe, not doubt.
I will believe, not
I will
doubt.
create, not destroy.
I will create, not destroy.
I am a force for good.
I am a force for good.
I am a leader.
I am a leader.
Defy the odds.
Defy the odds.
Set a new standard.
Set a new standard.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
Step up.
With all within you, everything you've got, speak to the Spirit within you. Speak to God in the universe and tell Him, now I am the voice.
Now I am the
I
voice.
will lead, not follow.
I will lead, not follow.
great conference.